On today's show, our topic is on spousal violence and breaking the culture of silence. So yes, you heard me right, spousal violence, and that is one of the major forms of domestic violence. And this is the type of violence that occurs from our partner or to the other in a relationship or those in marriage settings, basically, and also even people in general boyfriend girlfriend relationship. There are quite a number of things that you should have picked up in your relationship before getting into marriage, but you ignore the signs. That is the furor from Goldberg. So this topic continues to eat at tabloids and our social media screens, and the sad part is that it doesn't end as violence, but it costs lives of people on a daily basis. So previous studies from 2018 in Nigeria have shown that the prevalence of IPV, for those who do not understand what IPV means, it means intimate partner violence. It has different ranges from 31 to 61% from psychological and emotional violence. And the statistics also, tells us that 20 to 31% of sexual violence also do occur in marriages, and of course 7 to 31% for physical violence as well. The list goes on. Our case study on today's show is that of the Destiny Adaize Ikpama. I hope I pronounced that name properly. A lawyer who was reportedly 6 months pregnant when she was allegedly beaten into a coma by her husband Anthony Ikpema in their Aja homes. I'm sure quite a number of people saw the social content at the time, I think last week, and she was rushed to the hospital where she was fitted with an oxygen mask, and the culprit eventually took it to another level by making his way to the hospital to severe the life of the wife from the oxygen machine. There are quite a number of questions I wish I could ask in all of this. How did he get to the building, Stanley? The processes and the likes and all of that. But we have someone who is going to be doing justice to the topic. So to discuss this case study and topic with us is a filmmaker, humanitarian, investigative journalist, and a gender rights crusader with zero tolerance for abuse. She is a victim herself, and she is president and co-founder of Dorothy Njemanze. I hope I pronounced that properly. Hey! She's the founder for social justice and inclusivity, gender equality. Again, welcome, Dorothy. Thank you so much for being on the show with me, of course, via our studio line of Dorothy's in Abuja. How are you doing today, Dorothy?
I'm extremely stressed out, but I'm alive.
What's stressing you? Let's banter a little bit about that before we go into the topic of the day. On Real Talk with Kike, we try to put smiles on people's faces. What's stressing you, my sister? Talk to me.
Responding to sexual and gender-based violence is stressing me.
I know.
The frustrations with law enforcement, you've seen the frustrations of people who want justice, and then at the end of the day, hearing law enforcement claiming that people don't report cases is very overwhelming, And then the hostility that we get for helping people to navigate the legal system, it's wearing us down, it's burning us out.
Wow. Let me use this opportunity to say this, that you're doing a wonderful job, and I pray that God is the one that can actually help you to find a balance with a lot of people you're dealing with, and of course perfect all that concerns you. As you're stressed right now, he's the only one that can unstress you. There's little Kike can do. But well done.
Thank you. But support from everybody would help make the work lighter.
You're right.
Few people, when if more people got conscious about taking better action, then the body will be lighter.
Very true. We will be talking about that in a bit. On that note, our topic is spousal violence and breaking the culture of silence. Perhaps we may want to start from what is known as spousal violence for those who are listening to us who do not really understand what that means.
Okay, well, spousal violence is in the same category of intimate partner violence. Your spouse is majorly seen or generally seen as somebody who you are married to. And it's important to point out here that there are different kinds of marriages. There are different things or rituals or rites that people undertake that make them married. So some apply legal routes, some apply a combination of legal and traditional routes, some apply only traditional routes. And then some people just happen upon each other and here they're married. Yeah? Okay, so, but at the end of the day, the important thing to point out is that among spouses, if you have a husband and a wife, everybody is a human being or is expected to be a human being and respect the other person as a human being and respect the human rights of the other person. Your spouse is supposed to be, or your relationship, marriage is supposed to be about partnership. It's supposed to be a relationship and not a situationship, right?
Yes.
And on the grounds that, it's a relationship that metamorphizes into a marriage, it's expected that there's mutual respect of the wants, the desires, the aspirations, and everything of both parties. So it's expected that it's a place where you do unto the other person what you want to do, what to do unto you. However, the patriarchal background that Nigeria has, for instance, has predisposed many females within marriage institutions to different kinds of violence, right? And spousal violence is one of those kind of things. Spousal violence is one of those kind of things. Spousal violence is violence from your spouse.
All right. Having said and enlightened us on what spousal violence is, it is also crucial to know the role of communication, or otherwise, silence in this phenomenon called spousal violence might be irrelevant. So does silence reduce it or it worsens it?
Okay. So communication is very essential everywhere. However, it's important to point out that there's a very strong gender gap already existent because of our patriarchal inclination. Many cultures believe that women are to be seen and not heard. Many cultures believe that women should suppress their emotions as a show of love or affection to their spouses. And so it's important to note that many women have lost their lives for daring to communicate. It's important to note that a lot of women have landed in police stations to incident reports of violence against them simply because they attempted to communicate that they didn't like certain things, or they didn't feel comfortable with certain things, or they felt offended about certain things. And this is linked to the gender gap that is currently existent. However, there's no justification for people not communicating. There's no justification for oppressing or suppressing the voice of, females, hoping that it's going to help, it's going to be an opportunity to continue riding, on the females, right? Communication is key. I like this, I don't like this. You go out and you see something and then you come back and that thing you have seen, you have now decided to try it out at home. You talk to your partner, I'd like to try this, I'd not like to try this. I don't like that you sleep late night. Could you please call me and let me know so and so thing? All those kind of things. Communication would help you better understand a lot of things. I don't believe in keeping things under the rug. It only helps people to have pent-up emotions. And many times, we've seen like in the Miriam Sanda case, where it claims that, it was a lot of things that she piled up within her that made her act out at once after she took the life of her spouse. So we don't want to get to those situations where we're having females being like a collection of pent-up anger. We want to have everybody release, let out steam from time to time. If you're cooking and your pot is overloaded with steam, you notice that the steam always finds its way to go all the way, finds its way out with any small hole, right?
Yes.
Now, that's the importance of letting out steam. And that letting out steam is, an attempt to communicate. There should be an outlet. And in the outlet, if it's a constructive outlet, then the person is able to tell you, I like this or I don't like this, you hurt me this way or you didn't hurt me this way. And with better understanding, it's easier to work things out. Communication, effective communication can manage situations that could have led to spousal violence.
All right, many thanks for that submission. Using Miriam Sanders as an example, there are quite a number of examples. I think I would love to, also chip in here. It is an irony to see that such occurrences are becoming rampant, exclusively on this show last year. We had a guest, Praise for Wowe, and we discussed the saga of the Ghanaian pastor in Orlando, USA, who threatened and eventually murdered his lovely wedded wife. So why are these cases becoming rampant, especially in this institution called marriage or relationship that we have today?
Where do we start from? So only this afternoon, we got notification that a man is dead. And what happened? His wife, there was a problem between him and his wife, and he had a terminal illness. His wife will not let him to sell some of his property to get medical treatment. At last, the man is dead. We got the notification only this afternoon. I got that notification less than an hour ago, right? And she's still refusing to grant his family access to property to sell off and at least give him a burial. So these are all forms of violence. Violence could be physical, and it could be verbal, it could be emotional. But either way, violence against every person is completely prohibited within the Nigerian context legally. Violence is identified as crime within the Nigerian context, and it is highly prohibited. The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act is there to rely on, and then so many states have different other localized versions of laws that tend towards the same direction the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act does. That said, what is responsible for this? I would say that we don't have systems supporting victims, one, and we have tried to make it look like it is women that are, mostly the victims, and so it's not worth giving due attention to. However, remember that less than an hour ago, I got wind of the fact that a man is dead.
Yes.
Not a woman. Spousal violence affects men, it affects women. Because of patriarchal inclinations, there are more women that it affects than men. However, irrespective of the gender of whoever is the victim, we should have strong institutional systems in place to support all victims, ensure that chances of reoccurrence or repetition of this kind of things stop. We don't have those. We're really generally we're lacking them, and we look forward to the time when Nigeria would evolve to taking the lives of people more seriously.
Not seriously.
It's not further violence is not family matter. Once violence comes into a situation, then a crime has started to occur, and the level of what can be done to somebody before the person dies, we don't know. We want to keep on doing things that are going to save lives and not cost us people's lives. We want to have healthier environments to be able to breed better children. Children seeing spousal violence are very likely to be prone to violence because they see their mother endure violence or they see their father endure violence, and so they think it is a normal thing to do. And so if they're in relationships, they would expect their partners to endure violence.
All right.
Yeah.
So, out of curiosity, I would like to know, the story you just shared now regarding a man passing on. Was it the man refusing to let the wife sell his properties, or it was the wife refusing to let the husband, sell the properties?
So, as a matter of fact, that case was reported to us, was brought to our knowledge by somebody through the police somehow, and the man was sick and needed access to his property. He had made it clear that it was just some of his property that he wanted to sell, not all of them, to be able to get treatment because he had to be going through dialysis. But the woman held on to his property and refused to release his property.
Oh God! All right, so this is a conversation that I'll have to bail you after the show. I will talk about it. So let me use this opportunity.
At the end of the day, it translates to violence because he deliberately endangered his life.
Yes.
He had things that he could have disposed on to, elongate his life or to or make an effort. But she denied him access.
Oh my
For
God.
whatever the reason. At the end of the day, wherever our shared humanity is threatened, that is where we become, that's where radicals like me amplify our voices.
Dorothy, well done. Well done. May God continue to bless the work of your hands. So let me use this opportunity to open our phone lines. Please, you can call us on 0700 923 923 923. I can see that quite a number of people are started calling even before I open the phone lines. And of course, you can WhatsApp us on 0817 313 6193. Let's hear your perspective of the topic at hand. And if you have questions for our guest, please go ahead. If you want to also, share your own experience and, and inquiries and comments, please also go ahead. Thank you again, Dorothy, for being with us, today. And it is really edifying to have a figure like you in the studio to share more light on this domestic violence that is rampant at the moment, that we are all going through one way or the other, either from relationship to marriages, or even I would say sometimes even our parents. It's like it has become a norm, so to speak. But going forward, the case study we are reflecting on, it is indeed saddening and unfortunate to learn that there are also couples who have been married, and it also indicates that the degree of wickedness, just like you've shared earlier, because I can only apply it to wickedness, to be honest, and unforgiving nature of some people. Sometimes I want to believe that there are quite a number of times that our spouses, we offend each other, basically. But the man we are talking about now beat the pregnant wife to coma and later unplugged the oxygen till the wife died. So how is it possible for there to be for it to be a decree of callousness, if there's a word like that, and the fact that he was granted what's it called now, access to the building. I know you're not in the medical line, but I don't know if you and I can just visualize and just picture this.
Well, only 2 days ago, one of our clients was released by a hospital, to her abusers, and they absconded with the abuser. And this client was a child. Now, there are so many issues within the system that need to be fixed. There's a lot of we don't have enough consequences for actions. What do I mean by that? We have framework for assessing consequences for action, but we've developed a system that is reading with emotion, that is emotionally laden towards, it's emotionally sensitive to corruption mostly, right?
Yes.
And that's a very big problem for us. How did he assess the medical facility? Of course, maybe a lot of times that emotional idea of it is the husband, it is this. Police keeps on telling us that their work is not to scatter marriages. It is not a marriage when somebody says that their life is in danger. Respect for agency is important. Listen to everybody as a separate individual. When somebody says, I'm in love with this person, or I was in love with this person, I'm no more in love with this person, you should hear the person out for what the person is saying. The sense of entitlement that is given. Oh, a man has married a woman, so he owns the woman, and he's supposed to determine whether she's happy or unhappy, or she lives or she doesn't live. These are dangerous ideologies we have let to fester over time that are harming us in so many ways. And we need to stop this. We really need to, we need to nip this in the bud. That sense of entitlement mentality needs to be taken care of. And that's why, for instance, somebody sees a woman. There was a case that Project Alert handled I think 2 years ago in Lagos thereabouts, where a woman greeted another person, her neighbor, and the wife felt, why are you greeting my husband? And she carried hot water or something and poured on her. All these kind of things. The sense of entitlement mentality over other human beings, such that you feel that you have a right to destroy anybody who talks to them, or you have a right to destroy them if you're not getting the best out of them, is something that needs to be checkmated. We need to remind people in whatever we are doing, to remember to be human beings.
Hmm.
A lot of us have developed so many systems and have forgotten that the end product for everybody is that we should remember to be human beings. A lot of us have forgotten how to be human beings. A lot of institutional systems that exist, law enforcement, medical systems, legal systems, psychosocial support systems, do not remember that they are relating with human beings when people cry out and say, I'm in danger, or I am in potential danger, or my life is being threatened, or, all those kind of things. And so they do not treat them right. They just trivialize it into, when people started your romance, were we there? Just go and fix it. Everything is not fixable. Everything is not fixable. That's the truth. Sometimes you need to just give yourself some space and get a good breather, and then take a proper decision on whether you want to come back together stronger,
or not.
You want to have.
You're talking to someone. So, well said, and I agree with you that in this, our culture, is part of the challenges that we're facing today. Hence the reason why these stories are becoming more rampant. So it is unfortunate to learn that the man who beat the wife into coma gained entrance to the hospital building and eventually unplugged the life support. I know that we've tried to both visualize, or you've visualized what some of the processes that we have in place and some of the entitlement mentality or the mindset that we still carry on that have caused quite a number of issues that we're still facing when it comes to domestic violence and all of that. But the next question I would like to ask is about speaking about the culture of silence and the role it plays in such unfortunate incidents. I lent my voice sometimes late last year, to be precise, to the spousal violence of a TV reporter who beat up his wife, and that's governor of the Benue State intervened. I tell people that the culture and tradition of silence and accepting violence in marriage is actually wrong and should never be tolerated. So it leads me to the next question. Should marriages be tolerated in such cases, and do people with abusive culture ever change in 1 minute, if it's possible, before we go on a break?
People with abusive cultures, do they ever change?
Yes.
Most of the time, no.
Okay.
In all honesty, most of the time, no.
Okay.
So, places of power make other people endure or tolerate marriages? Absolutely not. When those things happen and it leads to death, or it leads to miscarriages or other health complications, do they bear the consequences? Do they bear the bills? The answer is no. At that point, they'll say God gives and God takes. That's not true. God has given us brains. Let us listen to people. Let us respect the agency of every individual. Let's ensure that everybody is safe.
All right. Many thanks for that. We'll go on a quick break and return after headline news. But first, a word from our sponsor. Do not touch that dial. This is Real Talk with Kike. Glad to know you guys are still right there with us. For those who are just tuning in, this is Real Talk with Kike. I am with the president and co-founder of Dorothy Njemanze, the Foundation for Social Justice, Gender Equality. She's a filmmaker and humanitarian, investigative journalist, and gender rights crusader with zero tolerance for abuse. Again, thank you for staying with us. For those who have been trying to call in, apologies, it's because we do not want to interrupt our guest. So please join us by calling our phone line 0700 923 923 923. And of course, you can send us a WhatsApp message on 0817 313 6193. Let's hear your perspective of the topic at hand. So, ma'am, listening to you earlier, I cannot help but also ask, because I know that the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015 says that an attempt to violence such as that attracts a minimum of 3 years imprisonment and a fine of 700 naira. Because earlier you were talking about accountability and all of that. So, do you think people even know that there's a penalty like this, let alone debating the effectiveness of the penalty code that I just read out?
In the first instance, people know about the legal provisions. They do not know about the legal provisions. So they know about legal procedures. They do not know about legal procedures, and so that's a gap where our orientation and reorientation agencies need to sit up. Different traditional means of communication and everything need to they need to capture the messaging or the content of our laws and let more people appreciate them in our native languages. That way there'll be better understanding of the fact that wrong is wrong and right is right, right? Especially violence within spousal settings is wrong. That's one. And then there's also the angle of, irrespective of the fact that there was a state of emergency declared on gender-based violence after the COVID period, many states in Nigeria are yet to domesticate the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act and the Child Rights Act, which primarily protects, females, but especially the Violence Against Persons Prohibition for spouses in spousal circumstances. Why did I mention Child Rights Act? Because so many times the violence between spouses affects children. And that's why I brought in the Child Rights Act in this instance, right?
Yes.
And the issue, even amongst the spousal violence, sometimes you punish one person, you end up committing abandonment or dependence.
All right. Can you please kindly hold that thought? We have a caller on the line. Hello. What's your name and where are you calling from, please? Apologies, we lost that. Please go ahead.
Yes. So many states have not domesticated the laws. And some that have domesticated the laws, in Edo State, for instance, the law that is domesticated is not justiciable in Edo, it's justiciable in Abuja. And I don't know how, for domestic violence case, you'll be traveling to Abuja, to institute a case in court. It doesn't make any sense, right? So at the end of the day, we need to look at our institutional systems again, the laws that exist. Is it applicable everywhere in Nigeria? Do we have gender-responsive budgeting to ensure that whenever somebody raises alarm and say, I could be in potential danger in any way, whether it's for physical violence or verbal violence or emotional violence, there's requisite support that is given to the person, irrespective of whether the person is male or female. However, we recognize that majority of the victims of violence are females. Okay, so I was saying that we need to have the laws popularized.
Okay.
But to have the laws popularized, the laws must be enforceable everywhere in Nigeria. We should start having a situation where, the penal code in Nigeria still breaks provision for reasonable chastisement of your spouse, of your wife. It doesn't make sense. And so we even have legal precedents there where in some parts of Nigeria, you can legally commit violence against your wife. These things are things that need to be expunged. This is 2021. A lot of things, including the law and everything, they are dynamic. Culture is dynamic and all of it. And so we need to be in conformity with the realities of 2021, where we want to achieve sustainable development goals and we want to preserve our shared humanity by respecting human rights. So we need to be more responsible in ensuring that we hold accountable.
Discussing earlier, I just want to take our minds back to what we're discussing, especially when it comes to the what's it called, the abusive relationship. And we need to know who the real culprits are. Is the man who happens to be the killer, the real killer, or the lady who continued in an abusive relationship in silence, or the family and the society at large who encourage people to stay in such marriages, especially when you know that it would not change, just like you've expressed earlier that these men don't change.
There's no guarantee anybody will change. It's not about saying these men will change. It's the man or the woman will change. The person will change. Because either way, even where the perpetrator is female, the law should be swift enough to take action. The law should look at the fact that people are human beings and not act only because of the gender of the law. You understand? Budgeting for these things are not seen as serious because majority of the victims are females. That's the truth about it in practice. Otherwise, why is due attention not given to these things? Who is responsible for who does the killing? the person who kills does the killing. But there's so many other people who can be accessories to the crime.
With the case study at hand, because I understand that from little research that I have done, that the woman who passed away happens to be our case study, was, the man has been eating her for quite a while before that occurred. So should the woman be blamed, or the society who encourages, because you have children together, please stay there, or because they keep, there are all sort of excuses that they bring up, or is it the man himself? Because I feel that at the end of the day, the woman could step out. What do you think? Who should you blame for this? Should it be the woman who stayed in that abusive relationship, or the man, or even the society or the family people? Who should take the blame for this, Dorothy?
Okay, so it depends on the peculiarities of the story. Every story is unique in its own way.
Sure.
I'll tell you why I'm saying this. In some cases, the women say, "I am done," but then again, they have been socialized into thinking that you are a failed woman if you have a failed marriage. They do everything to hold on to that thing that is not working. They hold on to their situationship, pretending it's a relationship. And in some other cases, it is some people who are like, well, even though I know it's not working, let me stay here just so that I don't let down my family members or whatever it is. Then there are the people who say, I don't care about this thing, or how you feel bad about me letting you down. I am out. But even though they've said I'm out, they are still hanging in there because realistically they don't have resources to activate that I am out. They know they're not.
Hello, apologies, Dorothy. Hello, what's your name and where are you calling from, please?
Valentine from Satellite Town.
Good evening, Valentine. What's your contribution on the show today?
You see, the primary blame has to go to the woman.
Okay, why did you say that?
Yes. Though the society does not encourage broken marriages, but then that marriage is already broken now that she's dead. There is life has no duplicate. There's no spare. So once a man starts beating, once violence enters the marriage,
verbal, domestic, physical.
Yes, the person is to quit, because you saying that a dead man, that woman is dead, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. But if she has walked away before now, probably she could be alive.
Absolutely. Many thanks for your contribution on the show today. Dorothy, you have an inspiring story of abuse and unlawful determined by law enforcement agents. So can you please share your story on those experiences and the lessons learned thus far?
Okay, well, but I was going to say something, before that. I was going to say that with the issue of the blame, there's a version that the society has to take. Neighbors that hear consistently when all these things are happening, they have their own version of the blame to take. If we're active bystanders, then it means that every time you hear these things, you will record what you have heard and you will report.
Yes.
And you report over and over and over again. And the state, the people in the police stations that say it is not our duty to end marriage is ordained by God, and they choose to make people to keep on enduring the violence, or they refuse to obtain statements from women who go to complain. These are practical things that are happening that are keeping many women bound. And because people are saying that it's like not many people are enduring what is happening to them, they feel the need to continue enduring their own. It's a ripple effect.
Yes.
Who is primarily to blame? The society is to blame. We need working institutions. We need to know that when a woman says enough is enough and runs out, there's a shelter to accommodate her. From the shelter, there's a plan to help her to transition going forward and maybe pay for the first year's rent so that she can put herself together and get on her feet. These are practical solutions that the government should come in on. They're totally not negotiable. Over time, I have seen that being a woman is reason for a lot of people. A lot of people feel that once they see women, they have an opportunity to try and show power. And they forget that we are human beings. And they trivialize what we have done.
Thank you so much for being on the show with me today. It's a pleasure sharing your advocacy or and the noble job you do for the society and humanity at large with us on the show today. It has been very educating being with a social crusader like you. I want to say thank you again for honoring my invite. And on that note, I say this is where we come to the closing remarks of the show today. But before then, it's important for me to share the Omoluabi personality from Goldberg, where we take, and I would say that Goldberg takes domestic violence with seriousness, and I will applaud and plead with people to take domestic violence with soft hand, and not taking with soft hand or levity in this climb, in this our society. If the man who beats up a pregnant wife to coma had been put behind bars with serious torture, how would he have the possible right to go into the building to remove the life support of the woman in the hospital? I want to use this medium to call out to our authorities to take firm actions, just like Dorothy have emphasized on the show today, because the next victim could be you and I want to emphasize on that. The next victim could be you and I. So on that note, let's shun violence at every level and make our society safer and peaceful for everybody. And this is where I draw the causes of the show. My name is Kike Atanda-Owo, and bye now.